All right, Shalom. I'm going to start out by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem, Kakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to all the Achaemenid preaching the word of sincerity and in truth. It's the Brother Barzar from Great Millstone, Atlanta. I have this lesson going into the last American slave ship is discovered in Alabama. And this is a cold cut for you guys that believe in the concept that so-called blacks were originally here, so-called white man just came a lot of history and he never transported you blacks, you so-called African Americans from the west coast of Africa to the Americas. You know, you have guys that come with that argument and say that, you know, slave ships never got transported because we are the slave ship today. Now, when you go throughout history of the American slave ships, a lot of them actually got destroyed after the voyages. You know, a lot of them were old, deteriorated, filled with blood and throw up, all kind of garbage, so to speak, and they basically discarded of them. But you have this American slave ship discovered in Alabama, shrapnel pieces, so to speak, and I'm gonna read a little bit on it. It says the schooner Clotilda smuggled African captives into the U.S. in 1860, more than 50 years after importing slaves was outlawed. Right, so you still had ships such as this that was still importing slaves after the so-called outlaw of blacks into the Americas. So the schooner Clotilda, the last known ship to bring enslaved Africans to American shores, has been discovered in a remote arm of Alabama's Mobile River following an intensive year-long search by marine archaeologists. Descendants of the Clotilda survivors have begun of this discovery for generations, says Lisa Demetropoulos Jones, executive director of the Alabama Historical Commission, and the state historic preservation officer, were thrilled to announce that their dream has finally come true. The captives who arrived aboard Clotilda were the last of an estimated 389,000 Africans delivered into bondage in mainland America from the early 1600s and 1860s. Thousands of vessels were involved in the transatlantic trade, but very few slave wrecks have ever been found. Continuing on, it says, the discovery of the Clotilda sheds new light on a lost chapter of American history. Right, and that's true. You know, it gives a new open and tangible evidence to declare more facts, you know. Because, see, the problem with Jake thinks everything is a farce, everything is a lie, everything is just made up, and they just popped up basically in America without doing an extensive study of their history. They don't go into the prophecy of the scriptures, so they just walk after the course of ignorance, man. They walk on in darkness, and you know, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans need signs. That's why Yahweh Shah said what? He's not going to send you a sign, man, because you want all kind of evidence. But even in these times now, the Spirit already shows there's more than enough evidence that you could actually see with the naked eye to show your history, to show that you are the people of the book, the Israelites, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right. So it says archaeologists and residents at the National Geographic Society, which supported the search. This finding is also a critical piece of the story of Africa Town, which was built by the resilient descendants of American slave ships. Right, and when I scroll down, you'll see, some archaeological findings. It says marine archaeologists recovered nails, spikes, and bolts used to secure the ship's beam and planking made of hand-forged iron. Such fasteners were common in schooners built in Mobile in the mid-19th century. So not only did they find the ship's pieces, they also found tools that would be worked on the ship. And, you know, shame on you B.O.B., you weirdo Negroes that believe in flat earth and that believe in all these different alternative philosophies. You know, the slave ships never existed. The Latinos and natives here were actually African American. All these, you know, this bullshit. You know, excuse my French, but that's what it is, man. You guys Just because you don't see these things on an everyday basis, you don't believe it. And that was a trick or a tactic that the so-called white man laid out for you to not believe in your history, for you not to dig deep and actually see without a shadow of a doubt that all these things are true. And this is a good article. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm going to jump down. And they speak about how the kingdom of Weta. Matter of fact, I'm going to read that part. Mina chartered a sleek, swift schooner named Clotilda and enlisted its builder, Captain William Foster, to sail it to the notorious slave port of Weta in present-day Benin to buy captives. Right, and that word Weta goes into what? Judah. Yahweh thanks because those slaves on the west coast of Africa, they had an idea of them being the Israelites. Some of them fell short of their nationality in latter times, and they changed it, but they kept a lot of the customs. That's why when you go with the going to the Ashanti, you go into the these other native, so-called African American tribes on the west coast of Africa, the Igbo and things of that nature. They kept the customs just like the Israelites. And it says present day Benin, and if I'm not mistaken, that Benin goes into Bunyamin, which is the son of righteousness. It says to buy captives. Foster left West Africa with 110 young men and children crowded into the schooner's hold. One girl reportedly died during the brutal 6-week voyage. Purchased for $9,000 in gold, the human cargo was worth more than 20 times that amount in 1860. So, it shows you right here the kingdom of Weta, or the kingdom of Judah, where the so-called white man came and gathered the slaves. And this is his voyage from, the route of Africa, going down around Cape de Verde, return to the U.S., and here it is, landing to the shores of, like it says, Alabama. So, you can't work around this, man. It's more history, more prophecies coming out through the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai. The scriptures speak about how in the latter days the prophecies will speak loud and clear. And I want to go down to more little evidence. So it says a bust of Cujo Lewis, one of the last Clotilda survivors to pass away, sits at the entrance of Union Missionary Baptist Church, which he helped found. Here's a bust of him. I'm going to go down a little bit more. And here it is right here. Forensic scientist Frankie West examines samples of wood from the ship's hold in hopes of recovering DNA from captives' blood or bodily fluids. Right, so he's actually taking the wood and examining if any type of human remains have laid on it. And this is I'm going to continue on. National Geographic engineer Arthur Clark analyzed a nail from the wreck and found that it was nearly 99% pure iron, consistent with fasteners used in shipbuilding Alabama in the 1850s. Right, so these individuals did their due diligence and their research, and all has found to be true with this information. And I also wanted to deal with this in Africa. You had this one location known as the House of Slaves, and you have right here the door of no return, and this is where slaves would be exported. They would be basically pushed out, exported from one side of the world, from West Africa, and this is located in Senegal, and they would be pushed to America, Dakar, Senegal. But it says the House of Slave and its door of no return is a museum and memorial to the Atlantic slave trade on Goree Island, 3 kilometers off the coast of the city of Dakar, Senegal. And, this is a good article. Through the spirit, I did a lesson on this a while ago. I got the inspiration for the Elder Kazak. But, this is tangible evidence, man. You Jakes, man, you guys are bugged out, man. You always want to see something manifest, some manifest building, ancient building, some ancient layout in order to believe your history. The spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai through the prophecy is enough. All right, but on top of that, the Lord is declaring everything, man. Scripture says there's nothing in darkness that shall not be put to the light. And I'm going to get into a couple of scriptures, through the spirit of the Lord. that of course the famous Deuteronomy 28 and 68. Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. That where Egypt goes into bondage, because we was known to suffer a harsh bondage in the Egyptian captivity. And we came back into captivity with what? In cargo slave ships. The transatlantic transits the switch from one part of the Atlantic or one part of the waters to the next on a slave ship, transatlantic slave trade. And it was a trading, and it tells you in Joel how we were traded for wine and things of that nature, traded a boy for a harlot, So it says, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, that no more again is our homeland. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies. The so-called white man is our enemy, and he sold us. All right, preferably the Jews. The Jews were one of the main financiers of these slave ships, because they're the ones that funded, the slave trade. For bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. All right, meaning no man shall save you. Bear with me through the Spirit. Isaiah 22 and 18. He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. And is that not what happened to the blacks? Hey, and these Native Americans. A lot of those Native Americans were being transported to Spain. All right. So it says he will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. And when they was in those treacherous waters, they would be violently tossed to and fro. That's why a lot of them were chained onto the walls and things of that nature, And that water made a lot of Jake seasick. They were throwing up, defecating on one another. It's horrible history, man. But that's a biblical prophecy, and we highlight these things to give further evidence of who we truly are, that we are the Israelites. There shalt thou die, and there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of the Lord, of thy Lord's house. Right. So that's when we fell as a nation, and the Most High, through the Spirit and power of His Word, has been showing more and more evidence of everything that we had to go through, and it links up perfectly with the prophecies. So that's all I have for Akim. Just wanted to bring that out through the Spirit, the power of the Lord. More information of Jake being the Israelites. Being the people of the book is coming out. So when anybody giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Shemi, Awashah, Shem, Rakakwadash, double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom, Akim.